That's right.
Amity Island has long been known for its clean air, clear water, and beautiful white sand beaches. But in recent days, a cloud has appeared on the horizon of this beautiful resort community. A cloud in the shape of a killer shark.
Welcome to the Fandom Outpost, your podcast for all things pop culture.
Beach is closed. No swimming. I order the Amity PD.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Fandom Outpost. Today's a very special episode, and as always, I'm 1/3 your host. My name is Mark.
I'm Jim.
And I'm Bob. Welcome everybody. Appreciate you joining us today on our exploration of the 50th anniversary of Jaws. And before we get into it, I'd like to ask you to please like and subscribe to our channel. If you like this video and want some more action like this, like and subscribe.
I love
We
it.
really appreciate it. Leave a comment too. Let us know what you think of the whole history of Jaws that we're going to be talking about. And I also will be giving away, I have a little digital code here from the Steelbook. I'm going to give that away shortly.
Oh, snap.
That's
stay
awesome,
tuned,
dude.
and I'll pop up the number. Maybe if you are into digital codes, you can take it. First come, first serve.
I am not giving my digital code away.
You what? You what?
I am not giving my digital code away.
I think I have it.
I'm sure you have it from the 10 other releases.
from the other 4 releases. I have it.
I never upload my digital codes.
Oh,
I've
God.
got a
Really?
400 library of digital codes. I mean, half are probably expired by now, but you know, I don't ever do anything with them. I'm not that guy.
Yeah, I split. When I'm lazy, I get the streaming, and then if I want to see it in a little more quality, throw in the disc. So
Yeah, that's
Anyway.
kinda cool. Jim, lift that shirt up one more time. I want to see what it is. Is that the cage? Is he going after the cage?
Yeah.
looks
Yeah.
like the cage, right? Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It's funny. That's not a shark. That's like the movie shark. You can always tell.
That's the
Right.
difference.
It's got the jowls.
I will
and
not.
stuff,
I will
yeah.
not suffer any faux sharks. It has to be Bruce.
Yeah, mine's a faux shark.
Well,
Oh,
yeah,
yours
no,
is a-
no. He's got. That's a picture of Bruce. He's got
Art of
talent.
Yeah, mine's a comic book.
Yeah, comic
version.
version.
Yeah, that they had and stuff. So it's more colorful and stuff.
Where do we want to begin, fellas? With our where we're at?
We'll start with this, okay? If you don't know this, Jaws is 50 years old this year, so that's what we're going to start with. And we are
Old enough to have seen it.
There you go. So we're not quite in the age group of would have seen it probably when it first hit the screens.
Oh, I did.
Did you really? They took your 6-year-old ass to see that?
Was, 8. Yeah.
Oh
I
yeah.
saw
Oh
it
my
in
god, dude.
I want to say I saw it in a re-release.
Yeah, you and I saw it in a re-release.
Or possibly it was that time of life where movies sometimes stayed in the theater for a year.
Yeah, I can't say for sure when I saw it, but I know it was at.
But I saw
like,
it before I saw
Terrace
it
or
on
something.
TV.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that
Yeah,
story.
we'll get to that story.
But it was 76. So let's see. It's
75. Yeah. Well,
75.
5 into 6.
Yeah, I would have been 7. So my mother was kind of like, I don't think I'm going to take you to see that.
And the
You know
first
what
time I
mean?
saw it
So-
was with my brother Tom, and
Mhm.
he's 3 years younger, so there's no way that we went that young.
Yeah, that's what I
so-
mean, dude, yeah.
Somehow I got in there. I remember because
Wow.
I remember the whole summer being just scared out of
the summer of Jaws.
my swim shorts to go into the pool.
Yeah, everybody
Summer
were.
of Jaws.
It was
And
funny. It was
you
a funny
couldn't-
thing, wasn't it?
You couldn't get away from it. It was everywhere. I knew more about it from not ever seeing it. I mean, I had a towel, a beach towel. Right. The first time I ever saw anything on it was my babysitter at the time. When she came over, she was reading the book. And I was like, what is that on the cover? Because it's, soon to be a major motion picture. And it had the poster art on there. And it was like, and I'm like,
Wow.
that's cool. That's a monster with teeth. I go, what is
Right.
that? And they're like, it's a
Spark
shark.
your
And I'm like,
imagination on that. I know. Same with me. I brought up to Mark before we recorded this. I brought up to Mark if he had ever heard Mr. Jaws.
Mr. Jaws, my cousin had that. Bob, you're going to have to drop that in there. It's
Oh
so
my
weird.
God. Because
was
I told
such
him
a
I'd never
weird-
heard of it. I mean, of all the things, me being a Jaws stan, and I'm
It
like,
was
I
just-
I can't
don't
believe
know
you hadn't
what
come
that
across
is. Yeah.
that on the radio.
Well,
or
maybe if I
something.
hear it, it'll trigger it.
We are here on the beach where a giant shark has just eaten a girl swimmer. Well, Mr. Jaws, how was it? Dynamite! And what did she say when you grabbed her?
Please, Mr. Please.
You know,
it's
it might be one of
it's
those.
a novelty album of a reporter interviewing the shark.
Oh my God.
And all the answers and he's interviewing people, and all the answers are clips from contemporary hits of the charts or something like that.
Right, music
come
drops.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
funny. So,
Wow.
but then we
I'll
were,
give
you
that
know,
one.
then sharks were in the zeitgeist big time at that. So we get
Yeah.
things like Jabberjaw, you know, comes out of in Saturday mornings, and Mr. Jaws. Do you remember Mr. Jaws?
No.
I'm going to send Bob a picture. He can throw it up of Mr. Jaws. He was done by the people that did like the Pink Panther and the Ant the Aardvark. He
Was that
like,
licensed? Like, I mean,
well, he was called Mr. Maybe Mr. Jaw. They didn't, you know, and he was a shark that had like a top hat, and he spoke with like a German accent.
What?
And he would
Wow.
he would sneak up on people, and they would play this very close to Jaws, but not close enough to get sued.
Right.
Music, and then he would just go gotcha, and he'd jump out of the road, and he would scare people, and they would run away.
What the fuck?
I don't know. Artie
What
Johnson
is-
did his voice, so
Oh my God. Well, I remember the dude that drove the car. Like,
dude
that's
that drove
you just mentioned him, right? What's his name?
Jabberjaws.
Yeah, like the cartoon
Yeah,
guy. or whatever. Yeah,
Curly
so
from the Three Stooges as a shark. Yes.
yeah, like I remember
Oh,
that.
yeah, I
So
do remember that.
Well, you got well, folks. Back in the day, we didn't have the plethora of stuff.
It wasn't
that
hardly anything.
You
I
would
mean,
have like there was no. You have to understand, Jaws came out before Star Wars,
Right.
so the market or whatever you would deem
Merchandise.
collectibles or whatever
yeah,
merchandise,
merchandise. Yeah.
was almost non-existent back in the day, which I think it's amazing, by the way, once we get talking about the film, that there's that game, that arcade game where they're shooting.
Oh, the
Yeah.
shark.
there.
Yeah, I played
That
that.
thing's phenomenal.
I
Yeah.
played that. That was,
Right.
Yeah.
that was in the
Well, the fact-
basement of Westland Mall. They had an arcade that had that.
Right. I remember that.
It is interesting that it's in the movie, though, that it was that, you know,
Yeah.
the popularity had started to come about, that would be a video game, right?
Right. Well, there's the 50th anniversary 4K release, obviously, come out this year and stuff. I think Bob just threw it up on the screen. Jim, you got yours too, so
I
I've
did.
elected to pass.
Well,
I already
you've bought the 35th, right?
Yeah, I got the
Or
45th.
45th,
yeah, something
right.
like that. Yeah. So I feel like, and I was having a hard time getting it in a steelbook at the time, so I got it from Zavi. So that's where mine originally came from. So I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna skip this one.
Right.
So,
You're really buying it for the only thing that seems to be different is the new documentary that's going to be streaming here by the time we're probably up
Yeah.
with this.
The Jaws at
episode.
50. Yeah.
Jaws at 50.
So
It's really good, though. I did enjoy having that it's the separate Blu-ray, which is cool. So it's like it's a thing you can collect and keep and watch whenever you want. And if your internet goes down, you still got it. So
the thing is about Jaws, folks, it's like what hasn't been said, and how we're going to cover it. It's the same way, meaning that we'll kind of take you through our experience with it. So, Jaws, everybody knows, directed by young Steven Spielberg, who I believe it was his second film because the Zonic producing team or Zonic Brown producing team saw Sugarland Express, and they thought, "Wow, this guy's got some talent." So the tumultuous history of Jaws with Steven Spielberg is stories unto itself. Let's just put it like that. So, and the most famous story, folks, at this point, we're just going to talk to everybody's at least seen Jaws once, being that shark that they made, practical effects didn't work half the time. And the creativity and ingenuity of Steven Spielberg, sorry, I flubbed the name there, worked to their advantage, right? That's
100%,
100.
yeah,
You guys,
100%.
right, Bob? Like your 6-year-old self was, the couple shots that you see of the shark, probably terrified you.
It's what you don't see.
Oh
right?
my
Right.
God.
But he must have had he did have a great production crew that put this all together, right? I mean, Jim probably could speak to that more. He even met the guy recently.
Oh yeah, recently met. Actually, before I go into that, guys, I have a confession. While we still have internet connection here today, so I don't know how many of these pods we've done, but um, I tanked last week's effort to record. I didn't have a problem. I could actually have recorded.
So
But Bob, but I have good reason. So Bob, I need you to get up and go to the COVID closet.
Yeah.
Bob has a COVID closet.
Then
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
Open it?
You'll see. Open it.
What the fuck is going on?
Mark,
Yeah.
I need you to turn around and I need you to open the beaches.
Open the beaches. What does that mean?
Turn around, look behind you, other way, and open the beaches.
Okay, now what?
Take down your sign.
Take down my sign?
Where is it?
Take down your sign. On top of Battleship, Bob. I guess you didn't see it.
Oh, on top of Battles.
What is happening?
Did you find it?
What is this?
You'll have to wait and see. Did you
Wait-
take down
wait
the
until
beaches
Mark-
sign?
I don't know, folks. Let's see here. We got a little. I've never seen this
What is
before.
going on?
This is like some kind of special ops thing.
It was a special ops thing.
Yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna get that back up there though. All right.
So you got one of these too, Mark? You got one of these too?
What is this? Is this what I'm looking for?
Yeah, that's what you're
I
looking
got
for.
one too. What the hell is this, dude? What is
Okay.
going on here?
Well, I had.
We open? We opening it?
You can open them. It'd make for great ASMR. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
let me just
I know.
put it up to the.
It felt like a book.
Holy shit!
Joe L. designing Jaws.
Designing
Holy crap,
Jaws.
That's awesome.
Damn, dude. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
You got to lead into the story now.
Oh, okay. Well, you got to look in the first couple pages. So
Designing. Oh shit!
Oh,
Oh,
my
man,
God. What the
that's
fuck?
crazy.
Damn, man. Look at this shit.
so
This may be.
I had some
Maybe-
help. I had some help with both Kendall and Nikki helped me. I delivered those.
Get
to
outta
them, and
here.
They hid them for me.
That's crazy.
So you could
Oh
thank your
my
wives
God.
for helping me out.
You're lucky you're leaving today.
People watching, this is a total
I
surprise.
had
We had
no
no idea
fucking
Jim was
clue,
doing this.
man.
And Mark's in a different state.
Yeah, now my wife is like, "Don't worry about it. I'll decorate your background. I got that." So eager to do it for us.
I had
Oh,
a
yeah.
feeling. I'm like,
God, dude.
Yeah.
he
So-
didn't know. That's so fun. Wow, thanks a lot, Jim. That really means a lot.
Do we call them coffee table books? Is that what we call them?
Yeah, we call
Yeah,
them
this thing's
coffee table
about.
books.
I'd say it's got to be about an inch thick and stuff. It's called Joe Alves Designing Jaws, and then Jim is going to tell us a nice little story about this gentleman.
Oh, just I had an opportunity. Once a year, I go to this convention called the Wonderfest. It's down in Louisville, Kentucky, and this year they had as one of the guests. They usually have it's a model contest for people that build horror figure models and spaceship models, and it's not your tanks and
Right.
and airplanes and cars and stuff. So they usually try to get guests that have something to do with film
Right.
or television or something. And Joe Alves, who was the production designer, you'll see him on every commentary, every documentary. Usually, he was in charge. He was a guest there, and he was in charge of building the shark. So they came
Damn.
to him and they said, "You want to build this shark?" And they said, "He goes, yeah, I think I can do it." And he went out and he hired the team of people to put that thing together. And as he says in it, he's like, the shark did work, except the shark worked in
On dry land.
In
Oh,
fresh
okay.
water, and it was the corrosiveness
Salt
of the
water?
salt
Is that
water.
it? Oh, I don't
that's
know if
right.
I'd ever heard that. I didn't think about that.
Is the problem. Also, they cut his time and budget in half
Oh,
as they're
oh my
building
God,
it.
of course.
So,
of course.
but
Well,
but he was a super. Yeah,
Great
super
segment
nice,
on that documentary on him. It's got a nice
Nice.
5-10 minutes.
Yeah, super nice guy. There's some great shots of him, fixing the shark and doing all that.
Bob, just put some text above me that says "super nice guy." So I'm pointing to this dude over here. Thank you very much, Jim. That's very. It was
You're welcome.
Very moving. So yeah,
I can't even
I don't have the
put it
words,
in
dude.
words.
I got my eyes are misty and shit.
Totally
yeah.
shocked.
He has a very long career in Hollywood. He was a production designer on Close Encounters and
Yeah, I read that. I was like,
Escape
that's
from New
awesome.
York.
Yeah,
He worked on
you know that one.
Forbidden Planet. He was
Okay.
part of the
Okay.
team of animators that came over from Disney to do the monster for that. So, and aside from that book, he now has a thicker book that's his
Oh,
career.
nice.
So
Nice.
but that's just Jaws specific. So.
Well, 1 inch thick jaw specific is pretty specific. So holy cow and stuff.
But it's all those pictures that we've seen for years and stuff like that. So hopefully you guys will like it. So
it means a lot, man.
Oh, good.
And I gotta say, I opened it up, and one of my favorite pictures of all time is the gutted shark that's got the the mechanics. Like I've always loved that as a kid. I was so fascinated because I've never understood how it worked. I've never seen, maybe it's in the new documentary, I've never seen the shark actually working. I've never seen how it works with the mechanics of it, in or out of the water, with all the pneumatic, I don't know what you call them, but stuff. So
right.
I've never actually seen how the thing works. So I've seen this. Oh, sorry, hang on. Let me get my prop. I've seen the mouth before, like I've seen when it's like the pneumatic drill stuff does the prop, but I've never seen the whole shark work. Sorry.
Right.
They could have saved a lot of money with that.
Sorry. Well, it's a good visual to describe it. So,
so
and then the body's
it's
over
like my
here,
arm and it's open here and stuff like that. Like I didn't know that. They only had to shoot in so much shallow water because the thing rested on the bottom. You couldn't.
Yeah, it's on a track. Yeah, so they had a left side shark and a right side shark. And then a full shark. And then they had a rig that was like the fins, the tail, and the
There are some things, and I know because of my age, there are some things about the movie, and Robbie's a huge fan of. I mean, he always used to talk Jaws, like that was, what I mean, like his thing. And then Stefan, I mean, I might have told this when we did our exploitation ones. He's one of those guys never seen Jaws. He's a 30-year-old man. He'd never seen
Isn't it funny how
Wow.
And he went to see it for the first time when they re-released it in 3D.
Oh, in 3D, right.
Yeah, and he said that fucking Ben Gardner had jumped him out of the seat, man. I can't imagine what it looked like in 3D, but I was like, wow, like, I'm sorry I missed it. So I wish I would have seen it with him.
It's a good jump scare. Spielberg says he probably shouldn't have done it because then it kind of ruins the scare when the shark comes up.
Yeah.
It's a good one. And it's almost matched in part 2, which I forgot about the body and the burned body.
Oh, the burned body. Yeah, that's right.
Comes up,
First of all, dude, that's
comes right at you.
It does, man. It gets that
because Brody's like edging out. It's part 2. He's edging out to get the wood plank.
Yeah, dude, and that's horror movie trope right there. Like, oh my god, why would you do that? Let that wash ashore.
Well, plus you think it's going to be the shark,
Right. Oh, right, because he's in that water. Yeah, that's crazy, dude. That body comes out and he's just like, like right on him and stuff. So,
but Ben Gardner said that as a child, that was probably I think I mentioned it on our Facebook page. That was like my first jump scare experience. I think.
I could see that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, my favorite shot in the movie. It hits it doesn't hit the boat. Sorry, it does a swim by, like a drive by.
Yeah, where you're looking at it from above.
Yeah, and he's like, that's a 20, or Hooper's like,
Yeah.
that's a 20-footer, and Quint says it's 25 and 3 tons of them. And that score from Williams kicks in, that dun 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 dun, and he's running in front, and all Brody is just like, we're going back, right? You need a bigger boat, right? Like, he doesn't even know what to do, you know. And man, to the pulpit, Martin. I need to get something to funk out my ass. Like, oh my god, dude.
You know, one of the things that makes it's a thriller. It's a horror at times. I mean, getting eaten by a shark is certainly a horror.
Oh my god!
The guy in the estuary is horrific. You know,
that one's.
And he looks really good coming up underneath him to grab him and take him down.
It's like,
oh man. Well, that's the first appearance,
right?
And then that 2-second later shock. Now I understand Gardner's head. That's a jump scare, but the gasp of. You hear him screaming, and they do from the beach first, and suddenly
that you're right up in it.
You're right there, and it's got that he's out of the water, eating on his hand.
Yeah.
You know, and pulls him in and stuff. You're like, oh my god, like that's horrific right there. And you know, it's too bad because there are people nowadays. Yes, I understand it's a quote unquote mechanical shark, but it's a practical fucking effect, people. Like I don't, as good as Deep Blue Sea is,
right?
Because I enjoy that.
And there are practical sharks in Deep Blue Sea.
There are, and they were very smart to utilize that for scenes, for certain scenes, you know. But man, imagine a Jaws with a digital shark tank, even with the hinged mouth or whatever. Who cares? You know what I mean?
You suspend your disbelief just enough.
Yeah.
Right.
Plus, you have to know that back in the 70s, even with practical effects, nobody takes a camera down in the water and films sharks except for Craig and Valerie.
Ron and Valerie Taylor, right?
Ron and Valerie Taylor, yeah, thank you. Yeah, except for them, because they're the world's leading shark photography experts and stuff. So, but
one of the aspects that I enjoy from Spielberg in this era is his take with the hero being the one that believes something that no one else believes.
Oh,
and it's the same with Dreyfuss and Close Encounters, that he believes something, and everything in the world is against him believing that. And the same with Scheider and Brody. You know, he just believes that he wants to get this taken care of, and everyone else is kind of like, let the beaches stay open, you know, whatever. And that whole thing kind of carries through with. That's why I like Brody so much in that movie. He reminds me of Dreyfuss and Close Encounters with that.
Well, and we could talk about Jaws 2 a little bit later. I just wanted to say there's a scene in there where he's before the board.
Right.
He loses it. Like I think his acting right there is probably the best in the Jaws series. Like, I get what Spielberg was at, but when he loses it, and I don't know what the line was, like, you better do something about it this time because I don't tend to go through that hell again. I think that's it.
In Jaws 2, right?
He's really reaming those guys out, and the unfortunate thing is they're all staring at him like, okay, you're a psycho. You know what I mean? But
did they not know exactly what happened? That's what I always wonder. Because
after all that he went through, the mayor still sitting there going through it this time. And,
right.
You know, I mean, like, yeah,
your vote counts because the mayor is still mayor in Jaws 2, right?
Yeah, he's still mayor and stuff. Like, when he was like, "You're the mayor of Shark City," you know, like, how'd that dude get elected again?
Because he spun it because he was. I got rid of the shark. I signed the papers.
That's it right there. That's it. That's the scenes we don't see. He took credit for the whole thing, and it made him super popular, and that's why he was elected another term.
Can we jump a little bit into the novel? Because I did read the book in the last couple of weeks. I was doing an audio book in my car on the way to work. And then I had the novel at home, and I read it at night.
Yeah,
so I wanted to cram it in before we got in here today. And there's right. You guys had told me about the aspects that are not in the film with the Hooper and Ellen.
Yeah, there's two horrific ones in my opinion.
We'll get to that, but
I have never been more disappointed in a novel than I was when I finally read Jaws.
Like, I know that. Well, I mean, I know Jim and I read the novel at a young age, And
you had the Reader's Digest version. which
Yeah,
has
so
great illustrations, and I'll
I
pull
was
those
going to
up
bring
for
that
you,
up in the
Bob.
beginning because I went
Uh.
like this. I was like, I should look for those. Like, there's no way I don't have that
Did
somewhere.
it have like Ellen and Hooper's fantasies drawn out?
I don't know, but
No,
it's
there's
got
a good one of the shark jumping on the boat sideways. Like
yeah, and it's got a good one of him coming through the cage for Hooper. And I
Yes.
want to talk about
Oh.
that, the book version versus what Spielberg
That film. But I
filmed
just
it.
wanted to
But
touch
go
on
ahead.
the mayor because the mayor has like mafia connections. And
yeah, there's a
that's-
whole mafia subplot in there, and
that's why he wants to keep the beaches open, which
then
kind
there's
of
also isn't like the guy who runs the town newspaper, Meadows.
Meadows.
Isn't he like kind
He's
of like
a big
uncovering
narrator
it
in the
Yeah,
story,
he's-
right? He
yeah.
kind of propels the story quite a bit in the novel, yeah.
But it's a summer beach read, is what it was meant to be. It wasn't, he didn't write it to be a movie. It's great that it became one, but it's Quint dies
But yeah,
differently.
it's like you really dislike a lot of the characters, and I know they
Hooper
mentioned that in
dies.
the documentary.
Yeah, you
Hooper-
couldn't wait. You couldn't wait for Hooper to die.
Yeah.
I'm so disappointed in Hooper's character in the novel. I'm just like, oh, he's all creepy and hitting on the married woman, and
And it's stupid because when he's in the cage, he's I hate this. He's literally punching the shark in the cage. From the cage, he's punching it, and it clamps down on his hand and rips him through the cage, and that's how he dies. So I'm like, first of all, no offense to Peter Benchley, but like you couldn't wasn't there 3 or 4 drafts that you could have been like, let me make something a little bit more exciting, punching him in his eye and he bit down on my hand and rips me out and come on, bro.
And Quint dies kind of unceremoniously too, with getting drowned.
He gets tied up in the
rope.
moorings or whatever,
Right.
yeah. And then once the shark, oh my god,
Right, the shark's going down, brings him down with him, and
yeah, and
it's
the
kind of
shark
like
dies. He drowns. Can you believe that, folks? They actually use the term "the shark drowned" because the barrels and the way he was tied up,
Barrels did its job, right?
The barrels did its job because he couldn't swim and the gills couldn't propel, whatever.
Couldn't get
shark needs to
oxygen
live.
from
Getting oxygen and stuff. So the barrels kept him, and he just drowned. And somewhere in the darkness was Quint's floating body. It's weird.
It's one of the few times where the movie did better than the book, because everyone growing up was always like, "Oh, it's not as good as the novel." Or, the novel's way better than the movie.
Yeah, this is one of the few times that it's the opposite.
And those were executive decisions from Spielberg, and so that's
Early
why I
on,
give him a lot of credit.
Early
where
on.
he's like, "You,
no,
if
this is
you-
too much. Strip this out."
Yeah, and he said there's something in there that he, excuse me, because Benchley was not happy with it. Obviously,
Correct.
I mean, what writers are going to be happy to change what
Nobody
they wrote?
Not a
So
one.
he was not happy with it. But Spielberg, there's a quote out there, and whether or not it's true, was he said to Benchley, "Listen, if I've got them for 2 hours, like you have to, you got to send it off. You don't go out with a whimper, you go out with a bang, literally. You know what I mean?" So he's like, why, like everything you wrote is a whimper. Like there's nothing, what's the allegory there? You know what I mean? Like basically the shark wins. He takes 2 of the 3 guys, destroyed the coastal town. It's like, okay, like, he's like, Spielberg's like, no, that's not what's going to happen.
Thank God.
So, yeah, he's like, the audience wants resolution. Like they want to see that, we need the hero moment. And obviously Spielberg went on to create the hero, the hero's journey with all his films. I mean, basically he's masterclass in what he was doing with that.
Sure. So one of the things that the changes from the novel gave us was absolutely one of my favorite screen couples in the Brodies.
Yeah.
They're
I love that one in
such
the
a
movie.
believable couple in the first movie, and it carries on into the second movie, where he's having to show up for her work event, and he's late. It's right at the beginning, and it's just, they feel very palpably real, the whole dynamic with,
he's
I see
fired
my
in part
husband's
2, and she's there for him. Yeah.
Yeah. Or, my husband's not eating dinner, and, Hooper comes over, and
Well, they have a shorthand, which works really well together.
It feels so natural. It feels
the garage,
very,
the car in the garage, or whatever.
The car is parked in the yard. Yeah.
Yep.
There was that just wonderful shorthand between them two, and according to the actress, he wasn't
Lauren
exactly he wasn't exactly wonderful to work with, I guess.
Oh yeah, he's a very intense actor. So,
That's the thing; it all gets left on screen, which you're like, hey, there
but
it is.
they did a great job acting
Yeah,
because you
they
couldn't
did
tell.
a great job acting, that's for sure.
So
That's the thing, she's got that part where she's got the drink and she snuggles up to him and she's like, "You want to get drunk and fool around?" He's like, "Oh yeah," and it's not a
Right.
nasty thing. It's just
Right.
like,
right,
I'm tired. I had a long day, and
Right.
she's like, "This is awesome and stuff." And then of
It's the
course she
shorthand,
changed it to
yeah.
one of the biggest comedic moments where he's like,
oh, he's in the boat. Michael's
yeah,
in
he's
the
in the
boat.
boat. His son's in the boat playing on the water, and he freaks out. Michael, get out of the water, and
Oh,
she's
let
like,
him
"He's
play.
never-
He just got
yeah,
the
he's never
boat."
going to go in the water again."
And then she sees the pictures.
Yeah, of a shark attacking underneath. Like he
Yeah.
comes up from the bottom. Comes up from the bottom.
From the bottom. She's like,
And all of a sudden she slams the book closed and she's like, "Michael, did you hear your father? Get out of the water now. Now."
Yeah,
Or
I
whatever
guess
it
they'll
was.
laugh every
Yeah.
time, doesn't it?
Yeah, like there's, that comedic shorthand and the dramatic shorthand and the unspoken shorthand between those two actors is probably one of the betterments of the first half of the movie. I know we always say things are divided up into act 1, 2, and 3 and stuff, but like they are the first half, like when they're together and they have scenes together, it's very it's mellow, it's encouraging, it's hopeful, it's realistic, like Jim
Feels
says,
real,
like
yeah.
so
it felt very like when they're taking Michael to the hospital, and she's like, "Oh, you want me to bring you? Bring me my cars, and I'd like some coffee, ice cream, and they're
yeah, like yeah. And then he says, "Oh, wait a minute, yeah." There's a great piece of dialogue there where he says, "Will you take him home?" And she says, "Home to New York,"
Right.
and he says, "No, home here." That's a real moment, folks. Like that's like. He's like, "No, I'm going to see this through. We decided this." And, by the way, the Brodies are transplants from New York City. And there's a brief beach scene where Ellen is asking,
they'll never be Islanders.
they'll never be Islanders. Yeah. When do I
Because
become
they
an
weren't born
Islander
on
and
the
stuff? They
island.
weren't born on the
big,
island.
That's a big theme in the novel is
Yes.
the Islander versus
Yeah.
the people that live, people that vacation there.
Right.
And there's a nice little backstory in the novel about Ellen being from kind of a upper scale
Family
and
Yeah.
meeting Brody, like in end of high school, and he's a little
Right.
older, and they start to date, and her family doesn't want her to go out with just a police officer, but because
Right.
they're upper and want him to
Right.
want her to be with like an executive or something, and she loves
Sure.
Brody. And I kind of like that little back end because I filled in a little bit of the
Who they
backstory,
were.
but then it gets into her being kind of the lonely housewife, and I didn't really enjoy that.
Because it taints the movie, folks. If you read the novel,
Right.
you can't avoid certain things that it does.
And in the book, Brody isn't Roy Scheider. Brody is, a little more.
He's Sterling Hayden or William
Yeah,
Holden,
he's
just this different.
He's a little bit
Less likable.
right.
Yeah.
And then Hooper comes on the island, and he's like Robert Redford when he's college
Right.
age Robert Redford. So of course she's gonna
Right.
be interested.
Well, Brody is our way into the story. He's our
Right.
every man.
We like Brody are not Islanders.
Yeah. So he's
Right.
the way in and stuff. I do it. Let's pause for a second. So who out of you guys, who's your favorite character from the film? Like, who do you guys really like?
That's a tough one.
Well, when I was a kid, it was Quint, right?
Wow. You're about to say exactly what I said or what I'm about to say. Yeah. When I was a kid, Quint was the Han Solo-ish type
Right.
of
Right.
rogue. And I did that. But now that I'm older, I lean towards Brody more.
I think
Yeah,
we
it's
identify
always
more
Brody.
with the,
Yeah.
the family man, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As the older we get.
Right. Which is that's funny. I just thought of that this morning. I was like, I wonder what those guys will say. So it's the same thing. I just want to have peace in my town. You
Right,
know what
he
I
wants to
mean?
He's protecting his family, he's protecting
Yeah.
his kids,
His
he's protecting his constituents or whatever you call
Right.
them, the public.
Worst line ever for the mayor is like, "Martin, my kids were on that beach too." Like we're in the hospital. I'm like, what the hell, dude? Who cares?
Right.
He gets that pen off him. He's like, "You gotta sign that." It's funny.
And props to Murray Hamilton because he does such a good job as that
Yeah.
character.
Yeah,
And
the
I've seen him in
sleaze.
other things since where he wasn't playing the sleaze, and that's great. He's in The Graduate, which is another big one for him.
I get him mixed up with the Capricorn 1
Oh, Hal Holbrook.
Hal
No?
Holbrook. God, and the
Yeah,
two of them I always
I
kind of
could
mix
see
up.
Younger days, yeah.
I saw
So
some
I
real
get
old
that.
movie with him in it. It was black and white, and he was
Wow.
much younger, and it was like a military movie, and he was like this. I don't know. They were recruiting some guys for this mission or something, and he was this dude who would get drunk and just fight the shit out of anybody at a bar.
Wow.
And I was like, "Whoa, Murray,
Wow.
what's in?" But nice range with him, and
I know that what's his name? Carl Gottlieb? That's his name, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So Carl Gottlieb he's actually, they gave him an acting part because, maybe I'm wrong, maybe my history is skewed, but because he was the script revision guy. Like he was
Right.
he was punching up stuff. So they were
Yeah,
like,
he was
well,
Meadows. Right.
yeah, they need to be on scene all the time. So they just made him Meadows or whatever it was. I mean, he's got some, I didn't know that for years, that who that was. You know, I just thought it was an actor and stuff. And for not being an actor, he's got a good part in the movie.
Yeah.
You
One
know
of
what I
the
mean?
tidbits from the Jaws at 50 documentary was I didn't realize how few real actors were in the movie. There's only like 8 real like SAG card carrying actors. The rest of them are
Wow.
all people that were native to the island or
Right.
area. It's
Yeah,
like
and
even
that
the
local color, and that really helps flesh that out, right? But no, but the Chrissy's date at the beginning on the beach, he was just a local,
yeah,
oh,
I
hey,
mean,
and
I think that adds to the realism feel.
it does. I mean,
Yeah.
one of my favorite guys is, when we go to the dock, and it's the old man with the checkered shirt, and he comes with a pipe, and he's kind of walking out, and
Of the thing, yeah.
I don't know his first name, but his name is Silva, and he's the
I think
harbor
it's
master.
Frank.
Yeah.
I
The
think
harbor
So
master.
yeah, it's weird. I always do it, and he's smiling because he's like, "Look at all these idiots! Like,
Right.
everybody that is doing this.
I'm
Like,
making
does he
some
get a
money
cut? Do
today,
they have?
right? Yeah, he's getting a cut.
Yeah.
So-
So it's like that's kind of funny. That's the introduction to Hooper, right? Like
Right,
that
that's
scene, yeah.
super. And then the
Hooper
guy
comes
that,
in.
Quint got a lot, Robert Shaw took a lot of his flavor from is well, hello, young fella, that guy.
Yeah, that guy. Hello, young fella. Yeah.
And you got the what?
Oh,
Guy.
he's the best part, the tiger
Oh my
shark
god,
guy.
it's a tiger shark. What?
And it's funny, it wasn't him, but it was the other guy that was with him on some of these Facebook board, and it was really good. If you folks get a chance to check out some of these Jaws Facebook groups, because these people were like, "That's my uncle in this movie,"
Right.
and a lot of these people were like, "Oh, I was, one of the 2 boys that were with the fake fin,"
What do you guys like nowadays? How do you look back on the movie? Like, how do you like what? Like when you go to watch it or see it on TV, what do you feel watching it now? I mean, what do you look for the adventure part of it? Do you look for the humor part of it? I mean,
Let me touch on that for a second because
the horror part of it.
Yeah, I learned this early on that it's actually 2 movies in one. So you have this, I guess it would be a suspense thriller slash horror, which is um all the the people getting killed and this and that. But once the 3 guys get to the boat, it's an adventure picture. Like it's a buddy
Right.
cop slash adventure picture.
Yeah,
There's no
men against the sea. Yeah,
men against the sea, and uh there's no real, like, you don't get that horror vibe of like, because they're just out there and you figure these are 3 professionals and they're gonna beat this thing. Like you're really in it with them. You know what I mean? So now if it's man versus beast and stuff, but the adventure part of it is what sells me because they got camaraderie and Dreyfus with all the and all that, and Hooper drives the boat, or
Yeah.
Chief, that kind of stuff. That adventure part of it, and it's the thing when they're that dun 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 dun
Yeah.
dun. It's lost the horror element, but that's not a bad thing.
No,
That's like a
right.
great thing. Like it's 2
That's the
movies in
adrenaline.
one. Yeah.
You are on that boat with them. You are excited to chase the shark.
Yes, you are. Yeah. And look at how Brody, there's this great Scheider part where they're chasing down the barrels and he's smiling. He starts to
Right.
smile.
He's like, "Oh yeah, we
because
got
of,
this."
yeah, of what's going on and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's got to be Spielberg's direction of him saying, this is what I got to get in that shot. Like, that's really good. The horror element doesn't return until
After
Hooper goes in the cage. You know what I mean?
after the speech too. Is that
Yeah.
After the
yeah.
Indianapolis speech. Right.
Yeah, that horror element that comes back in there where it's like they go in there, and by the way, folks, Quint is against that cage. He's like, what are you going to do with that?
I think he realizes it's the last step.
When you see Quint kind of coming around to Hooper's point of view, you're like, "We're screwed."
Yeah, because he's like,
It's
you get
really
this
bad.
little
It's
needle
really
through
bad.
his thick skin. He's like, no,
Like
I can't do
he's starting
that.
to
Yeah,
realize like
Yeah,
the shark's
it's
got
like
the advantage.
right.
So I use in pop culture, folks. I'll never put on a life preserver again. I use that at least once a week about in conversations with my wife. So if something happened and I burned some food, or I'll be like, I'll never cook chicken like that again. I just use it all the time. It is in the zeitgeist, and it reared its head back when they wanted to do rollerblading. My kids were making TikToks and stuff like that. They were trying to get me to put on rollerblades, and I was like, I'll never put on a pair of skates again. so, so it just became this running gag in our house, and we could talk about its influence on pop culture. so, but I early on, I didn't have that thought about Jaws because I put it on a pedestal. I still think it's probably my favorite movie of all time. I really do. I mean, there's a top 5 in there. Raiders is in there, obviously. Things like that. It's no small affair that Spielberg films are probably in my the top 10. But Jaws was for so many years it was on that pedestal, and after a while, it's not that it came off the pedestal, but I was like, I came into the pop culture aspect of it. You know what I mean? So when I watch it now, I have a different viewpoint. I have a, wow, look at the camera work on that. Look at the dialogue like we were talking about stuff. But before it was like, and first of all, folks, I talk about this all the time. I defy you. Tell me what is a perfect film. Jaws is a perfect film. Okay. That's a huge debate on the internet of what constitutes a perfect film, because from editing to dialogue to everything, and even if it's got
Music,
cheesy
everything.
dialogue, a what? Like that's
Right.
not.
It's got
It
humor,
doesn't.
right?
Yeah, it doesn't make it not a perfect film. And Jaws is a perfect film. But what do you guys think? Like Bob, you had initially asked the question about how we view it from then to now.
I do like looking at it, as I mentioned earlier, about the characters who are trying to prove something to everybody and up against the odds, and that's what Brody kind of represents, I think. And I follow that for, like you said, about the first 2/3 of the movie. You're with Brody, and you're the, or a little bit of Hooper with the hands that aren't rough enough, and you identify little traits of all the characters, and you kind of bounce around until, like you say, you get to Quint, and then you're in the room with the master, master fisherman, the master shark catcher, and you're learning about him. I mean, you just learn and follow characters through the whole thing. That's what I enjoy about it, probably the most. The shark's a little secondary to me, actually.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
Jim.
Jim, what about you, Jim?
So it, had been thinking about this coming up to this pod, and it is the movie that I've seen more than any other movie. And I've got some favorites, and I've seen them all.
Wow. I didn't think
Bob
of it
Behind
like
You is
that.
Star Wars, and Planet of the Apes, and all. But Jaws is the movie I've seen more than any other movie. And now I'm wondering if it might slip from that for people because we don't channel surf anymore. Jaws is the very definition of one of those, rewatchable, to quote another pod, movies where you could come in at it at any point. You could like, oh, I'm here. All right, I'm going to sit for the next 20 minutes and watch this.
Yeah.
Where I'm at this part, yeah, I'm going to do that. It's the thing that sparked my imagination about movie making. I poured over the Jaws log for, you know, decades as a
Years.
kid,
Yeah.
right? And I couldn't get enough of it. And it's just the magic of cinema. And when I watched it as a kid, I was interested in the adventure, and the mechanical shark really fascinated me to no end.
Right.
But when I watch it now, I'm looking at it like, oh, I love this shot and the way this is composed, and
Right.
seeing it in 3D. I noticed things that I didn't notice before, probably because I was looking at it differently. But seeing it in 3D, I noticed just how well composed the opening beach scene is, going down the beach from the campfire, because that looked phenomenal in 3D.
Oh, nice.
And
Nice.
the Brodies have always had two phones in their kitchen, but it was for some reason it stood out more this time than the other. He has got the work phone and the home phone. When
that's
you're
bizarre.
when you're
But yeah.
when you're in the cabin before they go into the Indianapolis speech and they're comparing scars, if you look at the table, both Quint and Hooper have eaten their meal, and Brody hasn't touched his meal. His plate is full.
Yeah.
So
That's great.
He's sick.
just all kinds of little things like that. I see, when you go, even though it's not Jaws, but when you go to Jaws 2, when they pull up outside the Brody's home, both barrels are on either side of their front door and they're planters now.
Yeah,
So
I love that.
that's
Glad you
a
mentioned that,
great
yeah.
touch on
Yeah.
things like that.
Because that's another one of those scenes at the end of Jaws where he's like, "Can we get in on those?" Where he's
Yeah.
referencing the
barrels,
barrels that
right.
they're
Yeah.
up on that came back up and stuff.
I love that at the end where he's like, Quint. He's like,
Yeah, and
no.
he's just
No,
It's just like,
shakes his head.
just
It's like
gets
a
you.
heartbreaker, right?
Yeah.
The pieces of Quint hanging off the shark's head when he comes in.
Ugh.
Yeah,
And that's such a great shot of the shark. He looks fantastic, kind of coming in that when
He
he's kind of
busts through.
just his nose is kind of just coming out of the water, like you see in regular film. So in real life,
what more than any other scene, and we just talk about it for a minute. More than any other scene in the history of film for me has we talk about horror movies and we talk about a lot of stuff, and I have
You
a lot
talking
of
about
good
Quint?
things. Yeah, but like as a child growing
Yes.
up through my teen years, like things like that scene has affected me on a level that I don't even know how to talk about it.
Ugh.
Like it's not. I felt sadness when it happened. My heart was racing when I first saw it.
Terrifying.
Watching it, after 40 years, I'm still like, there's this brief shot when the cage breaks off and Quint looks to the water. Like, that's editing and it's Spielberg. Like, what's he really looking at? Like, I know it's that fakeness of like, does Quint know something we don't? And that's the shark coming up when it's about to come up. But I mean, go back when you watch it again, he's got that. He goes like this, and Brody's still looking at the cage, and the cage drops, and that's when the shark comes up. But I don't know, it's one of those things that foreshadows his own death when he says in the Indianapolis speech
Yeah.
about the
Right.
high pitched wailing and stuff.
Yeah,
And
the thrashing.
and it took me years to see. It was the re-release that took me to get the, where he's like, and the blood spits
It's
out.
the
So
final crunch. It's the
yeah,
crunch.
television
Or-
edited that a lot.
or when he grabs the machete, off of the side of the boat that he threw in there earlier. Did he stab
Is
the
that a
shark with it?
machete or is that a piece of wood?
No, he's stabbing the shark
Oh
with
my
it.
god, dude! Yeah, dude, that that thing. And in the beginning, he was like, "This shark swallow you whole." I'm like,
Right.
"Oh man!" Like that was
Yeah, it's
such
the
scene.
foreshadowing. When he's looking at that life jacket and then he's tossing them to the other two guys, and and he's like, and he changes his demeanor of how his jacket's all buttoned up. He buttons up his shirt and
I'll have to watch that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It gave me vibes of the Saving Private Ryan death that I can't watch again.
Yeah,
With
dude,
the
we
knife.
talked about that one too.
It's just-
Yeah,
it has the same.
Yeah,
because it's inevitable. You know it's coming, and it's like there's nothing that's going to stop it.
Yeah, and it doesn't. So I will say this honestly, because of being probably my favorite film of all time, it doesn't. It all these years later, I still have just a little bit of anxiety as it's coming up to that.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like seeing it, like you said, Jim. 150,000 times. Like it doesn't matter.
Right.
Brody does that slide too, where he's like comes
Oh,
down.
yeah, he braces himself from sliding further. Yeah.
Further, and then
Yeah.
he sees Quint down at the bow.
And there's some-
You know what? It's fucked
of the
up
boat.
that it was the. I hate to say this, man. It was a goddamn air canister. If it wouldn't have been for that air canister, because didn't that roll over his fingers or something like that, or it rolled over his hand, and then when they
Chekhov's air canister.
Chekhov's gun.
That's it. Chekhov's gun.
It's like, oh my god. And he tried to hold on to him too. I mean, it was like, damn, like Quint he reached, and like they were boys in that moment, and it was like,
Right.
I'm trying to help save your life. It's like he's like, save my life. Quint was not the loner at that moment. Like he was
Right.
like, he was like, oh shit, I'm about to be a snack.
But
So
yeah, you kind of get the feeling that was his destiny, unfortunately, right?
yeah,
Right.
yeah, you do.
He knew it. He knew it.
His fate.
So, as allegories go, he was Captain Ahab. and that was the white whale, for your Moby Dick references, people, and there was no other way for that to go. Yeah, so well put, Bob. That's exactly how it was. But again, being the death in the book, anticlimactic. He gets caught up in the moorings, he gets dragged and drowned. You don't drown Clint, you eat him whole. You know what I mean, or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but
and Hooper, Hooper lives because of a piece of stock footage that they shot for that film.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
So the Taylors had some footage that they shot of a shark getting tangled up on the top of a cage.
Cage, yeah.
Oh, Joe Alves tells a really good story about. So they figured, all right, we're going to make a smaller cage, and we're going to put a smaller person, like a jockey-sized person, in this cage.
Right.
And then we're going to put it in the water. And he goes, so we made everything, scaled it down. So we gave him a smaller tank, and then he figured, oh crap, this guy has less air because it's a smaller tank. So, but they said, that guy came out and saw that shark, and he was like, yeah, that's not happening. I'm not getting in that cage. We're good.
I know, that's crazy, dude. I do like the moment where Hooper, he says, I got no spit.
I got no spit, right? Yeah. Here's a guy that's trained. He knows exactly what he's going to do.
He knows it, dude. But he's seen that 25 foot. He's seen what it can do, and
that's a great line.
Yes,
it's a good character moment, right?
Supernatural. The shark is,
Right. Here's a guy who wasn't afraid to hop in the water at night, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, right. With that big ass $400,000 boat of his, with the lights everywhere.
It's a line that says way more than what the line is saying, right?
Well, and he's got the follow-up one where he looks up and he says, try to keep him off me till I'm down. Like that's a great moment, man, where it's like, you gotta feel like if you go in blind. I remember the first time I showed Jaws to my kids, like they still had does everybody make it out of here alive? You know what I mean? If you're not spoiled by it, you get to see that and stuff.
And Jaws is PG.
Yeah, that's
so. I don't. How does a man people get eaten by a shark on screen? More than one.
Yeah, like
3.
I didn't. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about the fight for rated
R. The Kittners, right?
Like I had heard that the Kittner scene and the estuary scene, maybe I'm getting them confused, but they had to be cut or else they would have got the rated R. Just those two scenes. But how did the end scene not get cut? Like, I'd love to see. First of all, I've seen a lot of behind the scenes of Robert Shaw just hanging out with the shark.
Oh,
like laying on a boat.
What are you thinking, Robert?
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Where I'm like, oh my God. But, to him, he's an actor. He's like, all right, cool, whatever. But yeah, the estuary scene and then the Kittner scene, like those had to actually be cut down to avoid an R rating. And folks, what we're talking about briefly is that PG-13 did not exist back then. That would not come until Red Dawn. It's the first PG-13 movie because of another Spielberg-esque produced films, which are one was his and one was not his. Yeah, one was the Temple of Doom.
Yeah, and Gremlins.
Then Gremlins, which is Joe Dante, I believe, right?
Right.
So those ushered in the PG-13. So there are going to be a whole bunch of people that don't know anything other than PG-13 movies, because back in the day, if you actually got to go to you saw Jaws, you'd be like, oh my God, like, what am I watching? Should this be rated R? Did I get into the wrong film?
It's amazing that it was PG.
Yeah. So growing up with Jaws, so back in our ancient fossilized days, that pre-home media, you had to wait for a movie to come to television. So for us, in sometime would have been the 80s, right? So
it's
late 70s,
79,
79,
78, 79. Believe it or not, it's got to be
78's part 2, right?
Yeah, they would have probably had it on TV. So
I was actually going to Google when it first appeared on TV because it's ABC, right? Like ABC. That was the big, it was ABC.
So it was a big deal when a theatrical movie came to television. So
yeah.
It was like,
what did they call that? With like ABC Sunday night at the movies.
It was the Sunday night at the movies. It was tonight on the ABC Sunday night movie. So one of the things that makes Jaws relevant and last for me, and the reason I have all this stuff behind me and I still hang on to it to this day, is that in the day after that show, that Sunday night, Jaws was the talk of the school. It was like, oh my gosh, you would come to school and did you see so and such and such on TV last night? And it was a big deal. Sometimes that was the first time someone was seeing Jaws, was when they were seeing it at home on TV.
It would have been mine. That's what I got to admit.
Think
Like
so?
it had to have been mine because I don't recall I just don't recall it in the theater until later for a re-release. You know what I mean?
So, anyways, Monday at school, Jaws is the talk of the schoolyard. I'm in class and I'm drawing a picture of Jaws, right? I'm drawing actually it's a profile of the boat and the shark's on the end of the boat and Quint sliding into his mouth. And this is all from whatever I can remember of this.
No pictures.
Right. The Jaws log is all I have for pictures, and I'm not carrying it around with me. So
right.
And somebody goes, "Hey, that's pretty cool. This other kid over here is doing this exact same thing." And
the exact same thing, dude.
Mark was doing it the exact same.
How crazy is that?
It was crazy. So that's how I met Mark. And then and then our teacher, Miss Palmer, which was she was a great teacher. Oh, Mark's got it. So I don't have that one.
Well, hold that up to the camera.
I'm going to try. So the memory that I have is the exact same with Jim, except that there was this stupid buzz because once the kid figured out we were doing the same things, the kids started moving in groups. Like they couldn't grasp what was actually happening. But Miss Palmer kind of like, she was like, oh my God. So I'm going to show you my horrific version first. So I have it in a cellophane baggie. So this
how old are you? Probably
it's got to be 6th grade, right, Jim?
This is 6th grade. Yeah,
that's
a good picture. There's nothing horrific about that.
And the scale is not the greatest, but there it is and stuff. So, and then Jim's, because I think he
Mine's
add
more
Brody?
cartoony.
Oh no, I do have Brody. My Brody's on the outside trying to save him. Jim's is still inside, by the table.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's like the same angle, the same. I don't know why or what. Why we did that? So.
And Jim did captions. We could
for
talk
some
about
reason,
that for something.
Yeah, for some reason, all my pictures I like. Yeah, obviously, I fell in love with stencils.
Right.
But I captioned all my pictures like they were like trading cards or something. Oh, and I made logos. So that
was the thing. The right trading card stuff was big when we were kids.
Right.
So
it was like it's kind of like the internet now, where you find your images that you would never see.
Yeah, so we had a great teacher, and she encouraged us, and she let us put those on like the bulletin board in the back of the room.
There's actually something written on the back of these, if I remember.
And she said we could do that as long as we didn't, the girl had to have clothes if we drew that picture, and they couldn't be too bloody.
Oh.
So that led to then the playground game at recess became Jaws, right?
Sorry,
became
Lauren.
Jaws. So the monkey bars were the orca, and one of our classmates, Lauren Gauze, and I'm friends with him still to this day on Facebook. He used to live down the street from me, and because his last name was Gauze, so of course you're in 6th grade. You're like, so that's like Jaws. So you're going to be the shark. So
oh no.
So Lauren Gauze became Jaws.
Jaws, right?
Oh my God.
So and it became like a tag game. Like if the shark ate you, then you had to become a shark, and you had to
Let me
So you
jump
got the
in
next
here for a
person.
second. So one of the things that Lauren did, which was terrifying, because he's obviously not a real shark, we would get on the slide. And this is just going to be this is the worst story I'm going to tell. I don't think I've ever told this in public. But Jim, we would climb up the slide, and I would be Clint, and the slide was the orca, and Jim would be behind me, and I would be falling down the slide. God damn. And Jim's trying to hold on to me while Lauren's down on the bottom.
Reenacting.
I would have to slide down. Eventually, I'd have to make it screen accurate. I have to slide down the slide, and Lauren was down there to thrash me and throw me around. Yeah, to grab me. Lauren was a little bit
Grab
bigger
ya.
than me at the time, so he'd throw me around and stuff. I mean, and I can't imagine, fellas, of what people on the playground must have been like. What in the fuck are they doing?
Yeah.
You know? And it was,
Oh,
dude.
yeah.
A lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
recess
Yeah, what
after
the hell
that was
game is that?
Jaws related. Like I didn't remember the monkey bars one, but now I do. So that's great. And if there's ever, I gotta say this, I'm not a super strongly religious guy, but there are moments in life that I think you can question and moments you can't question. And I gotta admit that for 50 years, dude, that
the
story,
synchronicity of the
I can't explain that story. Like two 10-year-olds, yeah, like that, like something out there in the universe, whatever that karmic power is.
Oh, God,
is
no.
like, I got to get these two guys together. Now it's not like we've cured cancer or gone on to do like all these things and stuff, but it's like, wow, okay, for some reason it wanted us to link up and be together, you know what I mean? So something about that.
I think it's time to give away the digital code real quick here. I read out of the package. Hold it up here for everyone. Whoever wants to take the code. Can you guys read that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it.
Thursday. Move it over to your.
You guys can pause it or whatever.
There you go.
I
Perfect.
can hold
Perfect.
it still.
Perfect.
Let us know who it was that gets that, though, please,
if
in
you
the
get
comments.
it, please let us
so
know
we
if you
can
get it in the comments, so I can
congratulate
throw the card away and never have to worry about it again. So yeah, let us know.
All 6 people that see this podcast aren't even going to get it.
Well, one person hopefully will take advantage of it and have fun watching.
That's funny. Way back in the day, we had an era in like our first 5 podcasts or whatever, and we were going to give away a Rocky 4 and a Terminator Blu-ray, and nobody pointed out the error. So I'll have to figure out another way how to get rid of
There's
those.
Still a chance, people.
So yeah, go back and watch our 2-hour-long episodes. Ooh.
Well,
my God!
This one here.
Well, it's our folks. The way it works too is our
anniversary.
retrospectives.
So,
yeah, we spend more time on our
if
retrospectives.
there's a movie that deserves it, it's this one.
Now I remember back in the day. I know we got a lot of stories. I know we're trying to wrap it up. I actually went to the Universal backlot back when I was a younger man, when I first started the Cohosts, and there's a legendary story about Spielberg found out that the orca was back there, and I wish I took a picture of it, but I got to see it, and then I think dudes were destroying it.
Yeah,
it's either a fire, I can't remember it, or something happens,
or something.
But it was rotting, and people were pulling it apart and stuff, and he got really mad. But by the time I think he could do anything about it, it was done.
Well,
that was one of the
the new documentary he goes on and he talks about it being on the back lot, and he said he would go spend time in it and he would cry because what he is real
going by.
The best thing about this documentary is kind of because he hasn't spoken tons on it. I mean, I'm sure he did in its day, but in recent years he hasn't.
Right.
But he was really kind of talking about, well, this movie gave me PTSD before we knew what PTSD was. He says for years I would wake up like having nightmares about not finishing it and all that stuff. So
it's a crazy story.
The crew says he put them through hell. Whatever. No, it was just a grueling process, and he's trying to get a movie in on time.
100 days over schedule,
and his last shot, he didn't even do that. He left it to somebody else.
Yeah,
and
because
he
was afraid
gone.
they were going to prank him and toss him in the.
Do something. Toss him in the water.
At the height of Jaws mania, I do remember there was a special episode of, and they utilized in Universal Studios Hollywood. They have their little Jaws attraction as part of you riding a tram through the back back of the lot, and there's like a little seafaring, little wharf town, and then the orcas park right there, and they have the shark comes up, and it's looked different over the years. When I saw it as a little kid, he had like giant teeth like this that were like white, they look like carrots hanging out of his mouth. I think, but they use it every once. They film like Murder, She Wrote. That's the little Cabot Cove town she's in, is on that back lot.
It is, yeah.
And I remember an episode of Sheriff Lobo that that the shark was on
with Claude
Yeah.
Akins.
And that Jaws was so popular, it leached into Happy Days when Fonzie literally jumped the shark, where we get that mention from. So, Crack Magazine, Mad Magazine, all that stuff.
Oh yeah,
Land Shark.
Land Shark.
That my God, Jimmy, you were obsessed with that one. You really liked that.
Would I come up to your door and go
live spoof thing?
Candygram.
Yeah, you would do
I didn't
that all
order
the
a
time.
Candygram.
Yeah, it's
Belushi
like,
doing
what?
his Dreyfus imitation. This was no boating accident. It's great stuff.
Speaking of Dreyfus, there's two things of note about Dreyfus. Is A, he allowed the joke to be used in a movie called
Is that Piranha Double D?
what'd you say?
Piranha 3 Double D?
No, that's the finishing one. That's the
Okay.
second story. So the first one is with Emilio Estevez and their cops.
Oh, a stakeout.
I forget what that's called. Stakeout. So in Stakeout, they got to be on the stakeout and they're playing trivia. So they're sitting there and Emilio Estevez goes, oh, I got one. And he goes, well, that was no boating accident. And then Dreyfus is like, oh, I don't know. I never heard of that one. And then something happened. So that's the first time I ever saw, oh, okay, maybe he has a sense of humor. And then he was like asked to do that Piranha 3D.
Yeah, he's
and
a
then
little
the story goes, he's like, only if you can kill off my character.
Sure.
So he's wearing the exact same clothes that Hooper's doing. He's singing "Show Me the Way to Go Home." So the fan theory is that's how Hooper ended up. Yeah. So the fan theory is that the piranha got him, I guess. So you ended up getting killed. So I like that. That's a neat
fun.
little homage, and like, all right, Richard, that's pretty cool. You'll have some fun with it. So, but Jaws has been very meaningful for me. I mean, I've collected a lot of memorabilia over the years, even the obscure stuff that I had. This thing that I can't really, well, we did show it, but we did it on probably our Joy Exploitation one. This little sign right above me over here. My wife made that for a birthday one year. It's just the beach is closed. It's a mini version and stuff, but things like that. And then I have cells of the film right there with the signatures from actors and stuff on there. So I'm like, some pretty cool stuff that I got. But I don't know, Jaws was always that special place in my heart. So, and it always will be, except for that damn Marvel comic. I can't.
It's the magic of filmmaking.
All right, folks, thank you for joining us. As always, Bob, take us out.
All right. We really appreciate you watching. If you've made it this far, like and subscribe to our channel and like this video. We'd really appreciate that. Leave a comment. That also helps stir the conversation and cause some interaction. That would be fun. So check us out on social media, on Instagram and Facebook. And with that, I guess we'll leave it with here's to swimming with bow-legged women, right?
There we go.
Thanks for watching, folks.
That's great. So
All right.
See you next time on the Phantom Outpost.
thank you for joining us. Yeah.
I'll drink to
Sorry.
your
Quick
leg.
shout out to thanks for the gift, Jim. That was really generous.
Oh yeah, thanks,
So,
Jim.
yeah.
That was a true
Really-
surprise.
Yeah, it was a good surprise.
That was not staged.
No.
I couldn't have done it without the help of Kendall and Nikki.
Yep.
So thank you.
Awesome
To them.
surprise and an awesome gift from an awesome friend. See you next time, folks.
Yep. See you next time. Bye bye.
Bye, gang.